Welcome back to the last session on principles of costing. In principles of costing, we had a total of 6 units or 6 topics. Topic number 1 was on introduction to cost accounting. Topic number 2 was cost classification. Topic number 3 was cost behavior. Topic number 4 was material cost. Topic number 5 was labor cost. And the last topic, topic number 6, was comparison of income and costs. To enable us wind up on this unit on principles of costing, we want to have a look at a few practice questions in each of the 6 topics. To start us off, we'll look at question number 1. Now, in question number 1, the question reads, it's from chapter number 1. Which one of the following would be classed as a credit transaction? Which one of the following would be classed as a credit transaction? We recall that we have 2 major types of transactions: cash transaction or credit transaction. In cash transaction, the payment is immediate when the transaction takes place. For example, when we make sales, we receive cash immediately. In credit transaction, the payment is at a future date. So let's look at each of the options and then we go for the best option. Which one explains a credit transaction? Option A, sale of goods paid for by credit card. Whether payment is by credit card or cash or check, that is a cash transaction. So that's not a credit transaction. Number 2, purchase of printer paper accompanied by an invoice. So we are making purchases, but it's accompanied by an invoice, which means the payment will be at a future date. So the right answer is B. But let's look at C. Sale of goods paid for by check. Check is also payment that is cash. It's immediate. It is just that it is through bank. The last one, purchase of printer paper by check. Check still makes it cash through the bank. So the right option for the credit transaction is purchase of printer accompanied by an invoice. Our next question, so the right answer was B. So question number 2, it reads, still from chapter number 1. Which 2 of the following are characteristics of management accounting? You are being asked which of the items that have been listed are characteristics of management accounting. Number 1, it helps with decision making inside the business. One of the characteristics of management accounting is that it helps in decision making. Point number 1 is correct. Point number 2, its end product consists of statement for external publication. This is wrong because of the word external. External publication is for financial accounting, not management accounting. Number 3, it focuses on cost. That is true. Management accounting focuses on cost. Costs is part of the subject of management accounting. And the 4th one, it focuses on asset valuation. That is not true. This is more of financial management. So the correct answer is 1 and 3. So which option gives us 1 and 3? Option number C. So the correct answer is C. The next question. In our next question, now we move to chapter number 2, which is cost classification. Which of the following is the best description of a direct costs? Remember, we have different ways to classify costs. Costs can be classified by their nature. When we classify costs by their nature, we have either direct costs or indirect costs. Direct costs are also known as prime costs. Indirect costs are also known as overheads. What are direct costs? Costs traceable to a specific cost unit. So we are being asked, which one of the following best describes is a best description of direct costs? A, a cost which is directly shared by one or more cost centers. That is not true. That kind of reflects on what we call a cost center. Number B, a cost that can be directly traced to a cost unit. B is right. A direct cost is a cost that is traceable to a specific cost unit. So B is right, but let's look at C. A cost that is paid for in cash. So if something is paid for in cash, that's a cash transaction. A cost that is incurred by the factory, that's more of a production cost. So the correct answer is B. Direct cost is a cost that is traceable to a specific cost unit. The next question, still on cost classification. Question number 4. Which of the following costs would not, the key word there is not, would not be included as part of prime cost? So which one would not be part of prime cost? Remember, prime costs are direct costs. Direct costs are costs traceable to a specific cost unit. So which one is not a direct cost? Which one is not a prime cost? A, higher charge for specialized machine required for a product, and that is the is not a prime cost, is not a direct cost, because higher charge for specialized machine, the machine will not be traceable to a specific cost unit. Let's see B. Rent and rates for the factory, that's direct. Material input for product, direct. Direct labor costs, you've already been told it's direct. So which one is not? What is not is option A. So the correct answer was A. Question number 5 is now on chapter number 3. So we are being told which one of the following costs would be most likely to be illustrated by the diagram given. So in the diagram we've been given, the y-axis gives us the total cost and the x-axis gives us the level of activity. Note that this cost is the same. As the level of activity moves or changes, the cost remains the same. Cost does not change. So which one of the following would most likely be illustrated by this does not change? Total material cost. Material cost changes with output. It changes with activity. The more we produce, the more timber we will need if we are making chairs or tables. So total material cost is not fixed, is variable. Factory rent, that's the correct answer, because the rent does not change with the units of production. Whether you produce 10 units, 20 units, 30 units, or even 100 units, the rent will remain the same. So rent is an example of a fixed cost. Next, total wages cost, that's variable. Expenses. Telephone expenses is kind of what we call a semi-variable cost or semi-fixed cost. We'll come back to that. The next question, so the correct answer there was B. Next question, number 6, still on cost behavior. So we are being told which one of the following costs would be most likely to be illustrated by the diagram. Let's look at the diagram. The diagram has got again the x-axis and the y-axis. But if we analyze the cost does not start from point 0. It starts from somewhere along the y-axis. So that means there is a component which is fixed, but now as you produce more, the amount increases above the fixed element. So factory rent, which is option A, rent is a fixed cost. So if it was rent, it could have just been a straight line. Next, telephone cost, and this is the right one. Telephone cost, there is a fixed component of telephone, what we call a standard charge, or what we call a fixed charge in telephone charges. And then there is now the cost now increases above the minimum as you consume more. As you make more calls, the cost increases, but there is a minimum that you must pay maybe per month or per day. So that is telephone cost. So it is fixed up to some point, and then it starts increasing. Telephone. Material cost is variable, and factory supervisor salaries is a stepped cost. So the correct answer is B. The next question, Question number 7, still on cost behavior, but now this is computational, numerical. D Limited has recorded the following data in 2 most recent periods. So you have the total cost and you have the volume of activity or units of production units. What is the best estimate of the company's fixed cost per period? If we recall what we covered in cost under cost estimation, we said that when you are estimating costs, there are 4 steps we follow. Step number 1, you calculate the variable cost per unit. Step number 2, you calculate the fixed cost. Step number 3, you formulate the equation. And step number 4, estimate the total cost. So you are being asked which one is an example of what is the best estimate of the company's fixed cost. Now this comes in step number 2. Now to solve that in our step number 2, it means we'll have to get requirement 1, which will give us the variable cost per unit. Now in variable cost per unit, last time we saw that it is cost at the highest activity minus cost at the lowest activity divided by highest activity minus lowest activity. So we go for the question. The highest activity is 1,100 and the cost is 18,300. So we'll have 18,300, but we are working in thousands. We can even add the 3 zeros. Minus 13,500, we can add the 3 zeros because it was in thousands. Divided by 1,100 minus 700. So we just go step by step. So we will start by, when we now use our calculators, we'll start by having 18,300,000 minus 13,500,000. It gives us 4,800,000, and then we divide by 400. This will leave us with 4,800,000 divided by 400. So it gives us 12,000 per unit as the variable cost. Now once you've got the variable cost, next you come and get the fixed cost. Now we saw last time that total cost is equals to variable cost plus fixed cost. So variable cost has got 2 components: variable cost per unit and the activity. So we decide to use the variables we had used in the question when it started. So if total cost is 18,300,000, it will be equals to variable cost per unit of 12,000 times activity is 1,100, and then you add what? Fixed costs. So note that fixed cost is what we are looking for. So what will be fixed cost? Fixed cost will be 18,300,000 minus 12,000 times 1,100. That gives us 13,200,000. So what is our fixed cost? Our fixed cost, 13,200,000. Our fixed cost will now be 18,300,000 minus 13,200,000. So we are left with 5,100,000. So 5,100,000 is our fixed cost. Now we come to the answers and check on that. So our answer is C. 5,100,000 is our answer. Let's go to another question on the same topic but a different subtopic. Same topic but a different subtopic. Now, in the next question we are being told, it's now on coding. Remember, a code is a unique identifier. We have three types of codes. We have what we call numeric code. We have what we call alphabetic code. And the third one is alphanumeric code. So there are three types of code: numeric, alphabetic, and alphanumeric. So the question reads, Blaze Limited is a manufacturer of gas and electric fires. It uses a numerical coding, so it's numerical. It uses a numeric coding structure based on a profit center and three cost centers as outlined in the first four columns in the table below. Each code has a subcode, so each transaction will be coded as. There is the main code, the first three digits, and the stroke, the last three digits, which are the subcodes. Now you have the codes are sales, 900, production 150, administration 250, and selling and distribution 350. And then the subcodes, sales of gas fire and sales of electric fires are under sales. Direct costs and indirect costs under production, direct and indirect under administration, and direct and indirect under selling and distribution. So we have the first question. What is the code for sales of electric fires? So there are two parts. There is the sales and then there is the electric fires. So sales is the main code. Sales is 900. And then electric fires, there are two types of fires. There is the gas and electric. So, and electric is 600. So it's 900 stroke 600. 900 stroke 600. So the correct answer is D. So we have sales and sales of electric fires is 600. So the correct answer is 900 and 600. So answer is D. The next question still here. What is the code for purchase of burner units for gas fires? There was a small mistake in this. It's supposed to be for sales, not for purchase, because we don't have any purchase here. So it's only sales, production, administration. So this is supposed to be, what is the code for sales of burner units for gas what? Fires. So sales, it takes us back to 900. And now burner units of gas fires. So gas fires is 100. So the code is 900 stroke 100. Answer is A. The next one is, what is the code for wages of administrative office cleaner? So what is the code for administration is 250. So wages for administration office cleaners are not direct, they are indirect. So it will be administration 250, indirect 600. So 250 and 600. The correct answer is D. And the last one, so the correct answer there is D. Okay, I'm just confirming. D. Okay, the last one, what is the code for printing costs of advertising leaflets? So advertising is part of selling and distribution. So 350. What is the code for printing of advertising what? Leaflets. So here, indirect. So it is 350, 600. 350, 600. It is indirect. So the correct answer is A. So that is coding. The next question. Now, in the next question, it now leads us to the fourth topic. Remember, the fourth topic was materials. The fourth topic is materials. So let's have a look at this. Materials valuation. So we have a question on valuation here. On 1st January, the balance brought forward was 100 units and the price in each case was 5. But remember, it's 5,000, but I'll still use 5. Next, issued. The next one, receipt, issues. And then what are you being asked? What is the value of the issue on the 9th, issue, not closing stock, the value of issue on the 9th September using FIFO. Remember, there are 3 methods of valuing inventory. You can use FIFO, which is first in, first out. Number 2, you can use last in, first out. And number 3, you can use weighted average cost method. The question now asks us, what is the value of issue on 9th using first in, first out? What came in first was 100 units, followed by 40 units issued, and then we received 50, 50, and 70. So let's start with the first. On the first, this was opening balance. Now our opening balance was 100 at a price of 5. I know it's 5,000, but I'll use 5 there. And then we issued. The next date was 3rd. Now we issued. Now issues reduce the balance that was there. We issued 40. Of course, you issue at the price which is up there. So what we are remaining with is 60. We are remaining with 60 at 5. The next date is 4th. On the 4th, we received what quantity? 50 at 5.5. The next date, which is 6th June, we again received. We received 50 at 6. And then now on the next date is the next date is 9th. 9th, we now issued. We issued, take note of here, we are using first in, first out. We issued 70 units. So if we issued 70 units, a total of 70, first of all, we'll start by we are using first in, first out. We were remaining with a balance of 60. So we will first of all issue the 60 so that we clear this unit. So 60 will be at a price of 5. And then we issue 10 from this batch here to make it 70. So 10 at 5.5. So we have those two. So we have 60 times 5. That gives you 300. And we have 10 times 5.5. That gives us 55. So what is the total issues? 355. But remember, there were 3 zeros there. We had 3 zeros, we add them back. So this will be 300,000, this will be 55,000. So our answer is 355, which is B. So in that question, our answer is B. Our answer is B. Let's go to the next question, question number 10. Question number 10, now we are going to the 5th topic, and the 5th topic, we are looking at labor. Now in labor, you are being asked, so under labor, employees are paid for the hours worked and receive an incentive if the target is reached. Now, remember, in labor, there is what we call remuneration methods. There are two types of remuneration methods, either time-based or output-based. Time-based is where you are paid according to the number of hours you have worked, and output-based is where you are being paid according to the number of units you produce. To motivate you to work harder, there is always an incentive, or what is called a bonus. So employee is paid for the hours worked. Hours worked is time-based. But there is also an incentive, which is called a bonus. So what type of payment is this? Is it a time rate? No. Yes, hours worked is time rate, but there is a bonus. So B, time rate plus bonus. That is the correct answer. Time rate plus bonus. Piecework is where you are paid according to the number of units you produce. And differential piecework is just a type of piecework. There are two types of piecework: straight piecework and differential piecework. So the correct answer there is B. When we are still in the same question, you are being told a different question in the same setting. Employees are, so the answer here was B, time rate plus bonus. The next one is employees are paid only for the output achieved. So when you are paying our employees for the number of units they produce, what type of payment is this for the number of units produced? It is a piecework. So answer is C. Answer is C. The next question. Now this is numerical, it's computational. We are being told, question number 11, Claudine runs a beauty salon and employs 3 assistants. They normally work 35 hours week with basic wages of $8.50 per hour. If they work overtime, they are paid these on a time, and you will take $8.50 plus a half of $8.50 to give you the overtime rate, or you just take $8.50 times 1.5 time and a half. Last week, Solange worked 35 hours, Christella worked 38 hours, and Josiane worked 41 hours. Required, calculate the overtime. You have not been asked the gross, you have been asked the overtime. Calculate the overtime payment for Christella. Remember, Christella worked 38 hours, but the standard time, the normal time was 35. So Christella worked an extra 38 minus 35 is 3 hours. So the overtime hours were 3. So for Christella, you take 38 minus the basic hours is 35. That leaves you with 3 hours. Now the 3 hours is the overtime. Now the overtime rate was on a time and a half. So you will take 3 hours and you are being asked what is the overtime. You multiply by 850 plus a half of 850. So that is 3 hours times 850 plus, what is a half of 850? Times 850, that is 425, 425. So this is 3 hours times 850 plus 425 is 1275. So what do we have? 3 times 3. It gives us 3825 as our answer. So 3825 is B. Still in the same question. So our answer here is C. Sorry, it's 3825. Our answer is B. 3825. So B is our answer. Now, calculate the gross wage for Josiane. Gross wage. Gross wage is total wage. So the gross for Josiane. So here, Josiane worked a total of 41 hours. 41 hours. So we'll take 41 minus 35. It gives us overtime of 6 hours. So we'll start with basic pay. Basic for standard hours is 35 times the basic rate is, basic rate was 850 times 850. So the basic rate is 35 times 850. So that gives us 29,750. And then there is the overtime. The extra overtime hours are 6 hours times the overtime rate was 1275. 1275. So 6 times 1275. It gives you 7650. So what is the total wage of Josiane? It is 7650 plus 29,750. So that gives us 37,400. Do we have 37,400? Yes. The correct answer is D. So D is our gross. Remember, the basic is 29. The overtime is 7650. So when you add the two, it gives you the gross wage, which is 37,400, which is option D. The next question. Now, in the next question is still on labor. I think we have gotten the same point. We have gotten the point, but we can quickly skim through these. Claudine has now decided to pay her assistants according only to the number of treatments they provide, according to the number of units. That's output-based. Output-based is also called piece work. Now, the rate used is 1,500 per treatment. So in this case, calculate the gross wage for who? Christella. So Christella is 20. So here it's 20 treatments times the rate is 1,500. So 20 times 1,500. That gives us 30,000. So 30,000, do you have 30,000? Yes. Answer is B. The last question. So second last question rather. Okay. So the next question is question number 13. Let's go to question number 13. Now question number 13, I think it's still the same concept of, we have already looked at time-based, so we can skip that because we have already covered examples on that. Question number 14. Now the question number 14 is now the last topic. Now in our last topic, it was comparison of costs and incomes. Now remember here, we get a variance. A variance is the difference between budget and actual. These are all costs. So when the actual is more than the budget, it's adverse. When the budget is more than the actual, it is favorable. So let's go to the question. What is the labor variance for the month? So the labor variance for the month, it is 67,370 minus 65,920. We don't even need to write that. We can just get the difference. 67,370 minus 65,920. So it gives us 1450. 14, but we add the 3 zeros. But you realize actual was more than budgeted. So answer is adverse. So let's look for 1450 adverse. 1450 adverse is C. The same concept applies to the remaining variances. So like for example, in this case, what is the production overheads? Production overheads, you get the difference between this and that. The answer should be adverse because actual costs are more than budgeted. So adverse. So okay, I don't know the difference unless we get the difference between this and that. And then the answer will be adverse. So it's either A or C depending on the difference you get there. And that is how we cover variances. Variance is the difference between budget and actual. Variances can either be favorable or adverse. This brings us to the end of this unit, Principles of Costing. All the best as you prepare for your exams. Thank you.